Hi, Lego Boy here with a second album review. This time, since it's the middle of winter, I decided to review Immortal's At the Heart of Winter. Immortal is a fairly old Norwegian black metal band, and this is their fifth release that came out back in 1999, so it's a fairly old album, but it's just one of those albums that sticks with me. Unlike the previous Immortal releases like Pure Holocaust or Blizzard Beasts, the songs on here are a lot longer, and I think Immortal was trying to go for a more epic feel to each of the songs. The songs also have a lot more range and variety to them. There's a lot of good tempo changes and chord progressions and stuff like that make this album a big standout from the band. And this is an album that focused on the guitars and the drums. Those are the two things that really carry this album. Even the vocals are kind of secondary compared to them. One of the best things about this album, I think, would probably be the guitars. This album is chock full of really great melodic riffs, very solo-y sort of riffs, and most of them are very memorable and just great. If you're the type of person who's into really good headbanging, fast-paced riffs, then this is probably the album for you. This album, another thing about the album is that it is not quite as heavy or as in-your-face aggressive as previous Immortal albums. It's a lot more melodic and atmospheric, and there's a lot of slow, softer points in the album. At the Heart of Winter isn't exactly a pure black metal album either. There's a lot of thrash influence in here, specifically I think from bands like Metallica, which may seem a little weird to some of you guys, but Immortal managed to make it work pretty well. The drums on the album are also really great. Unlike a lot of black metal bands from the time, it's not just machine gunning and blast beats. There's a lot more variety to them than that. There's a lot of great fills on the album. There's a lot of technical double bass stuff, and when they want to be fast, they can be really fast. The only problems with this album, I would say, would be mostly in song structure. The songs kind of like amble their way through. They don't really lead to anything or go anywhere. Sometimes the song will drop in and out of sections just kind of at random without any point or purpose. This isn't as big a problem as I would expect, because there's enough on the album that compensates for it, and there's enough interesting riffs and enough interesting drumming throughout that you don't really get sick of the way the songs are arranged. So I guess Immortal have managed to make that one mistake passable, and it doesn't damage the album too badly for me. The other thing I don't really like about the album, the thing I think could have been better, would be Abbas's vocals. I don't hate them, but they just don't really stand out to me. They're kind of flat and uneventful, and there's really not much range on them, except for in the song Tragedies Blown at Horizon. For the most part, they just kind of keep on one level, and they don't really go higher or lower at any point. So for most of the point, it's sort of a low-key growling that he does. And by the end of the album, the vocals are just a little bit dull. The only way I avoid having them bug me is by listening to the guitars and the drums, and the guitars and the drums are higher in the production anyway. So again, this is another problem with the album that manages to pass because there's just enough on the album that helps it compensate. So, At the Heart of Winter is, in my opinion, the best Immortal album I've heard. This one is a standout because of its epic atmosphere, the longer tracks, and the standout riffs. It's much more memorable than the other albums were, in my opinion. It's also an easy album to get into, and I suggest that if you're just getting into black metal, that you might want to give this one a try, because it's pretty accessible. Not only that, but it has more range to it. The thing that prevents it from being any higher is mainly has to do with the song structure rather than the vocals, because I think if Immortal had taken more time in arranging the songs in a way that brought them to a climax or a point, then the album would have been much better for it. Other than that, this is a pretty good album, and I would recommend it to anyone who's into this kind of stuff. I think I would give At the Heart of Winter an 80 out of 100.